Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Thank you for joining me here today. During COVID-19, I've been getting messages after messages after messages, day in, day out, with people wanting to learn how to become a coach. What I've seen during COVID-19 is a lot of people have realized that the job that they are doing is not fulfilling. They're working a job that they thought they were going to get a lot of security from, but eventually they lost, and now they're looking to fulfill their life's purpose. So maybe you're a little bit like me. Maybe you just really like to help people. Now, as a coach, I get to help really nice people to achieve their dreams on a daily basis. So I'm going to press play. I want to show you a video, and I want to show you some of the cool things that I get to do as a coach. So watch this one. This is really cool.
Tolson. Give her a good laugh. You asked if it worked on other people?
Hopefully you can hear that coming through. Over the past decade, I've had the pleasure of helping amazing people all around the world to achieve their goals. And as a coach, what I love to do is I love to see my clients overcome their mental and emotional blockages. So my journey of coaching started at a very young age. I remember I was about age 9 and I was working at my uncle's news agency, and I'd earn a couple of dollars being a paper boy. And at the end of my shift, especially on a Saturday morning, I remember an elderly lady sitting out the front of Coles supermarket, and she'd sit out at the front of the Coles supermarket and she'd collect donations for the Salvation Army. Now, at that stage, I didn't really understand what the Salvation Army was, but I knew I could make a donation to them. I knew I could make a donation, and when I made a donation, I knew that I was helping improving somebody's life. So as I got a little bit older, I started to think to myself, what is it that I want to do with my life? What do I want in my life? And I decided at a young age that I really liked helping people, and I wanted to become a doctor. And I used to have these visualizations, and I would imagine myself helping people. But one of the things that I couldn't imagine was giving people injections. I couldn't imagine myself giving them medication, but I could see myself helping people overcome challenges. And as I got a little bit older, I started to realize that there was coaches and counselors, but I didn't want to be working with people who were broken. I wanted to be working with people who wanted to achieve success. So at around about age 16, I started to coach water sports. And what I loved about coaching wakeboarding was I could take somebody from having no skill and being able to wakeboard really, really quickly. And there was a pattern. When I was coaching people on how to wakeboard, I could see this pattern. People would go out on the river, they would go out on the water, and the sport of wakeboarding, you can pick up the basic skills in a matter of minutes. But there was one thing in common. There was one thing in common with all of the people who came out on the water, was that their fear got in their way. They would have a fear of falling. And so instead of coming up out of the water and holding onto the rope, they'd let go of the rope. Once they got up on the water, they feared falling over and getting hurt. And there was even other people who got so excited they wanted to go out and wakeboard, but once they got in the boat, they were so embarrassed because they thought, what if I don't get up out of the water? What if I get up out of the water and somebody else can do it better than me? And all of these mental blocks started to come into play. And I started to realize that one of the biggest blockages people had to having success on the water was a mental and emotional blockage in here. Their fears, their doubts, their personal comparisons started to get into their way of having success. Now, that was at the age of 16. At the age of 27, I had moved to Dubai and I was working in the Middle East, and I was coaching water sports once again. And when we would get out on the water, I saw this same pattern. People got excited. They drove 40 or 50 kilometers out to the coast. They paid for their session to go out on the boat. They got out on the boat, they got into the water, and then their fears got the better of them. And I'd seen this same thing. I'd seen it when I was 16, and I saw it again when I was 27. And it was that people's mental and emotional blockages were getting in their way of success. And I started to think to myself, what if I could help these people overcome these fears? What if I could help these people break through that mental or emotional blockage? And so what I found was about 80% of what I was coaching out there on the boat, what I was coaching people was to overcome their fears and to break through their mental blockages. And once they broke through those fears and those mental blockages, their problem disappeared and they got up out of the water and they started to wakeboard. And so I had to figure it out. I'm in this, I'm in two minds. Do I keep coaching wakeboarding, or do I help people overcome those mental and emotional blockages? And so I started to find a lot of joy in helping people overcome those mental blockages. So I started to learn how to become a coach. And by age 28, I had started my coaching journey. So if you're on the live right now and you've considered being a coach, type in yes in the comments below. If you have ever felt that you've wanted to become a coach, if you feel that you're born to help others pursue their goals and achieve their goals, I want you to give me a yes in the chat box below so I know who I'm talking to today. So at age 27, I was coaching water sports. At age 28, I started my coaching journey. And as I started my coaching journey, people came to me with all sorts of obstacles. They came to me with all sorts of challenges, and they wanted to overcome them. So, Jared, great to see you there. And mate, the life of a coach, helping people on a daily basis is incredible. There's so much joy in seeing people make their transformations, and I'm going to give you a lot of ideas today. Naomi, great to see you there. Happy birthday for the other week once again. Today's conversation is about becoming a coach. So there I was out on the water. Then I moved into coaching, and I started out as a life coach. And when I started out as a life coach, I didn't realize how many mental and emotional blockages people were actually carrying around with them. One of the first people that I met on my coaching journey was a lady, and this lady had a fear. It wasn't a fear; it was a phobia, and she had a phobic response to her phone. Now, it wasn't the phone that was the problem. It was what was going to come through the other side of the phone. And so I met her husband, and he started to tell me about her challenge. And I said, what's the challenge that your wife's facing? He said, she doesn't want to answer the telephone. And I said, why doesn't she want to answer the telephone? He said, because she's afraid of hearing bad news. Now, what happened here was the fear was so great that it became a phobia. So the thought of actually picking up the phone and speaking to somebody on the other end became so frightening that she couldn't even send a text message. She couldn't even check the email. She couldn't receive a text message because she had a phobic response. Now, I had the pleasure of meeting this lady, and normally before I work with my clients, I will speak to them on the telephone. But for this person, she couldn't speak on the telephone because the fear was so great. So her husband drove her down to meet me. I met her in Starbucks in Dubai, and I started coaching her in Starbucks. So we had our first session, and then the second session she came back. And within 90 minutes working with me, she was able to overcome her fear. And at the end of the session, she picked up the phone and she rang her husband. And she said to the husband, "Husband, can you come and pick me up?" And the husband said, "What are you doing calling me?" And she said, "I don't know, but I'm making calls." So in 90 minutes, I was able to help this lady going from not being able to make telephone calls to be able to making telephone calls very comfortably. Now, she had such a great result that her husband come and worked with me. And one of the challenges that he was having was he was having troubles because he was having pre-exam anxiety. He would have to go into an exam, but he would work himself up into such an emotional state. He'd get himself into an emotional mess, and he would go into his examination, And because of the nerves got the better of him, he would constantly fail his exams. Now, his exams were critical for him to keep doing his job. So every time he went into the exam and then he failed or didn't achieve the mark, then what happened, the company put up the pass mark and he'd have to resit the exam and he'd have to go through all that stress again. Now, he worked with me for as little as 60 minutes. And what happened, he went from getting a score of 85% on average to 100%. And the difference was that he was able to control his thoughts and his feelings. He was able to change the way he thought about what he did. And instead of having an emotional hijack and instead of the emotions taking over, what he was able to do was to be able to go into the exam very confident. And once he was confident, he could recall all the information to be successful in the exam. So as I started out on a life coach, I started working out with fears and anxieties. And then when I was probably about 29, so I'd say it was in about 2019, a young woman came along to me and she said, Daniel, can you help me? And I said, well, let's talk about what the fear is. And she said, the problem that I'm having is that I've been raped. And I was raped here in the Middle East, and I keep attracting men into my life, and they keep attempting to do the same thing. And so what I was able to do at this stage is to be able to help this young woman break this limiting pattern. I worked with her for as little as 90 minutes. She overcome the fear and was able to get back out into society and enjoy herself without any other threat coming near her because she knew how to handle herself. And so these were the early days of coaching. I worked with a lot of people who had phobias of spiders, who had phobias of snakes. I was even working for Emirates Airline, and a lady flew from the United Kingdom, and she flew into Dubai successfully, and then she transferred from one flight to another. And as she transferred from one flight to the next, she was walking across the air bridge into the aircraft. Now, this aircraft that I was on, we were flying from Dubai to Beijing in China. And as she walked along the air deck automatically adjusted and dropped by about 6 inches. It dropped about 6 inches and it scared the living daylights out of her. She screamed. She had a big phobic response. She was ecstatic. She was on the floor. She couldn't move. And so the captain who was operating the aircraft, he had heard that I was the life coach on the aircraft. And he made a PA and he said, Daniel, can you come and speak to one of our customers? So I went out up to first class. I went out the first class bridge along the air deck, and I sat down on the floor next to this lady. And I did an intervention with her using NLP and hypnosis. And we did this intervention inside the airport. And I was able to help that lady overcome that fear because she was so afraid to fly that she was going to get stuck in Dubai. And she was going to miss out on all the good things that were going to happen to her by moving on to China. And so I did this intervention in the airport. It was very successful. I got her on the aircraft and we successfully flew her all the way to Beijing into China, where she started her new life because she was leaving the UK and she was moving to China to start a new life. But one small incident right in the middle of her travels almost prevented her from getting what she wanted. So I helped this lady overcome that fear, and it was incredible because I was able to do something for somebody. I was able to have a serious impact on somebody's life. I was able to help her overcome that mental block to achieve her goals. Now, Nini and I were sitting on the couch last night. We're sitting on the couch and we're talking about coaching and what we do. And I said to Nini, there's nothing else that I want to do in my life other than helping people overcome their mental and emotional blockages. I said, there is so much joy in watching somebody achieve their goals. And I said, sweetheart, we could sell iPhones. We could sell iPhones to people all day, every day. Think about Apple. It's a $1 trillion business. But I said to my wife, there is no joy for me in selling somebody a phone. Knowing that phone can help them communicate, can help them surf the internet, but it doesn't make them a better person. I said, I want to help people in my life. I want to help people overcome mental and emotional blockages so they can unlock their full potential. And that's why I love to coach. Now, back to this story. This lady who had the panic attack in the airport, she went on to China. Now, the interesting thing is when she landed in Beijing, the company that she was working for had changed her plans. As soon as she landed in Beijing, the company had changed the plans and put her on another flight, and she had to fly all the way out to Inner Mongolia. And she wrote to me, she wrote an email to me. This was about in 2009. She said, Daniel, in the airport when I had that panic attack, I was just about to give up on my goal. I was about to turn around and go home. But you helped me overcome that goal. You helped me overcome that obstacle, and I achieved my goal. Now, along with the email, she also sent me a photo of her paragliding when she made it all the way back around the world to the other side, all the way down to Brazil. She sent a photo of herself paragliding. She said, Daniel, if you hadn't have helped me in the airport that day, I would have never achieved this goal. And so what I want to let you know, there's a lot of joy in being a coach. So if you're watching here live or on the replay, say hello and let me know. Are you thinking about being a coach? Because if you are, there's a couple of things that you need to become a coach. So Jared, I came to the same realization a week ago. I want to help people in their lives and not just through products. Jared, that's exactly where Nini and I sit. We're in that same spot. We think to ourselves, we could sell cars, we could sell aircrafts, we could sell clothes, we could sell technology. But what we love is to see that person break through that mental and emotional block. And you know our philosophy, Jared, with 100x DNA. We know how much potential you have. We know if we took all of our DNA and if we could stretch it out into a line, we could stretch it from where we are today to the sun and back 300 times. And so when we look at our lives and where they're at now, we've got to ask ourselves the question, have I come this far just to get this far? You know, was I put on this earth to only earn this amount of money? Was I put on this earth to get here and this is the most amount of success that I'll ever have? You know, Jared, I was reading a book by a very well-known author recently. And in the book, he said, when you meet people today, you're meeting them and they're probably never going to achieve anything more than they've achieved right now. And as a coach, that doesn't sit well with me. Knowing that our DNA, we can stretch it from here to the sun and back 300 times. That doesn't sit right with me, that the people that we meet, this is as far as they're going to get. And the reality is they're not going to get any further than that because they have so many mental and emotional blockages. But if, as a coach, if I can help that person break through that mental or emotional block, they can go so much further in their life. They can be more, they can have more, they can do more. And I know it's absolutely possible. And that's why we love to do what we do. Naomi, this is exactly what I want to do, not just offer products through my network marketing, but help people in different ways to change their lives. Naomi, one of the things that I've learned over the years is that a lot of people go and they'll go and work with a personal trainer. They'll go and work with a personal trainer, and the personal trainers always tell me, Daniel, my clients, they work with me, they get results in the first 6 to 7 weeks. Their body transforms. And as soon as they get that transformation, they go into their old self-sabotaging behaviors. And all of the success they've achieved, they all of a sudden go back to their bad habits. They're overeating, they're over drinking, and their lazy lifestyle, and they destroy all the good things that they've achieved. And so what I've found with a lot of personal trainers, they see this pattern. They're the first people to see the pattern. The person puts on the weight. They come and work with the personal trainer to lose the weight. And then as soon as they've lost the weight, they get back into their old bad habits. And that's a self-sabotaging behavior. And that's the limiting cycle that people get in. And if we can help people get out of that, they can accelerate their results and they can become and do and have everything that they've ever wanted possible. And that is a wonderful feeling to know that you've helped that person achieve greatness in their life. So Morna says, the joy of helping others to achieve better, 100%. And Jared, mate, thumbs up. I agree with me and I agree with you also. So as we're talking about coaching today, there's a couple of things. If you're thinking about becoming a coach, there's 3 things that you need to have. There's 3 things that you need to become a successful coach. So make sure you're taking notes as we go through. First of all, if you want to be a successful coach, you have to have a diagnostic tool. I use a series of different diagnostic tools in my business to help my clients identify their strengths and their weaknesses. I help them understand where they're being held back. So if you go and see the doctor does a 3-step process with you. The doctor does an examination, a diagnosis, and offers a prescription. And as a coach, you have to do something very similar. You have to start by doing an examination with the client. You've got to help them understand where they're holding themselves back. Because if you have a goal and you haven't achieved it yet, then there's an obstacle. And you've got to help that client understand what their obstacle is. And in my opinion, working with some of the top coaches around the world and learning directly from them, about 80% of the things that hold us back in life have to do in here. It has to do with our thought processes. It has to do with our personal characteristics. It has to do with the environment that we've put ourselves in. So being a successful coach, you have to be very good with diagnostics. You've got to help people identify what's holding them back. So to give you an example, I'm going to share a screen here, and I want to show you a diagnostic tool that we use. This diagnostic tool helps people understand their behaviors. So based on your unique behavioral style, you're going to be held back in certain ways. You're going to have things that will help you become successful, but there's going to be parts of your personality that hold you back. So when I'm using this science, I'm helping my clients to understand who they are, helping them self-diagnose, if we could use that as a word, to self-diagnose where they're limited or where they're held back. So if we have a look here on the screen here, this is a recent report I was doing on one of my clients. This is a diagnostic, and we're having a look at their behavioral style. So over here on the top left-hand side, we can see that this is a DISC report. But with this person's natural style and their adapted style, they were two very different people. In their personal life, they were very aggressive and very competitive. But when they got into the business world, they toned all of that down and they started to back away from problems and challenges. We can also see here in the DISC style that the person's eye style, it's 66 in their natural or their natural state. But when it came into business, all of a sudden, the score went up by about 12 points. And so what happened was this person thought they had to be more enthusiastic, more overly optimistic in the workplace. And so what was happening for this person, if you met them personally and then you met them professionally, you'd be experiencing two totally different personalities. And what was happening for this person was that they were winning people's hearts and minds when they met them outside of work. But when they came into the workplace, this person was a very different person. And so what happened to the client went to a state of confusion and they started to back away from them. As they started to back away, they didn't want to do business with them anymore. So having a diagnostic tool like this, it helps people understand how they are naturally and how they are in the workplace. So if this is making sense for a diagnostic, type in yes in the chat box below. If you've completed a DISC assessment before, let me know. Type up DISC in the box below. I'd love to know if you've had a DISC assessment done before. So as we talk about these tools, one of the other things that I also help my clients look at is I help them understand, what skills do you have? What skills have you developed? What skills have not been developed yet? And when I was working with this client here, what I realized was that this person was having problems achieving their goals. They talked about what they wanted. They did visualizations, but every time they set a goal, they failed. They set a goal and never got there. And they started to believe that goal setting didn't work. So as we started to have a look at the diagnostic here, we had a look at this person's individual skills. And so I've measured 25 of their unique skills. And the skill that was the least developed skill was that of goal orientation. And as soon as we discovered this, we diagnosed the problem for the client. We said, that's where the problem is. And so as soon as they understood that's where the problem was, we put all of our energies and effort into developing that skill. And as soon as that person developed that skill, they started to set and achieve their goals day in, day out. It was as predictable as the sun rising in the east and setting in the west. They would set a goal and they'd achieve a goal. And so once this client learned how to set and achieve goals, their personal joy and satisfaction in everything that they did went through the roof. And they were so excited. And again, I was able to help somebody improve their life. And it's a great feeling. And, we get paid well as a coach, but the best payout that you get from your clients is to see that joy and to experience that satisfaction with them of them achieving a victory in their life. So we use all different types of assessment tools and diagnostic tools as a coach. So if you're wanting to become a coach, you've got to have a solid diagnostic tool. The other thing that you need to have is you've got to have a proven system. See, what people want today is they want a proven system. They want to know where they're going to start their coaching journey. They want to know what's going to happen in the first and second and third and fourth week of the program. So you've got to have a program, but you've got to have a proven system. If you can guarantee, if you can predict the results that your clients are going to get, you can sell coaching programs day in, day out. So one of my coaching systems is a proven system. I've been using the system since 2008, and it produces consistent results. It works for me. It works for Nini. It works for my hundreds of clients that I've trained around the world. And what they can do is they can sit down in front of a client and produce a guaranteed result. And once you have a diagnostic tool to show the client where they're being held back, once you can introduce them to a proven system, then you can start to coach at scale. And for me, I can coach at scale, and I've had more than 7,250 clients through my programs throughout the years. Because what we have is we have a diagnostic tool. The client knows exactly what they need to do to improve. We then show them a proven system. This is the formula. If you do this first, you do this second, you do that third, you'll get your result. And then the third thing that's really important is we can measure our clients' success. Globally, what we know is that coaching returns a 7 to 10 times return on the investment. So when your client walks in the door, you can show them exactly where they're held back. The second thing is you can show them exactly what they need to do to close that gap. And then thirdly, you've got to be able to show them how they can get a return on the investment. Now, when we talk about return on investment here, we're not only talking about a return on the money. We're talking about a return on their emotional investment and also their investment of time. So around the world, what we know is that a good, solid coaching program returns 7 to 10 times the original investment. So if somebody's coming to you and they're investing $1,000, you can start to predict that they're going to have a $7,000 improvement or a return on that investment. Executive coaching in some of the programs that we run here will produce a 49 times return on the investment. And I've seen this. One of my clients recently, they hired a person using our hiring system. They activated the system, and the company reported back that they made and saved $1 million in the first 6 months. So we can predict these results for our clients, and you can do the same. So if you're becoming a coach, you need 3 things. You need to have a diagnostic. You need to be able to help your client understand where they're being held back. The second thing you need is you need a proven system so you can produce predictable results. So anybody who comes in, you can say, if you do A, B, and C, you'll get the desired result. And then you've got to be able to show them the return on investment. And if you can do these 3 things, you'll be an incredibly successful coach. Now, if you're thinking about becoming a coach and you'd want to learn more about becoming a coach, I want you to type the word coach in the chat box below. And what Nini and I are going to be doing this October is we're going to be relaunching our coach certification and training program. Every year we open it up to just a few select people who we think will become excellent coaches. And we choose people who we believe who are going to become great coaches and do great things in the community. And we'll be hand selecting and hand picking a few coaches to be trained and certified this year. So if you're thinking about becoming a coach, if you're thinking about changing your career direction, or if you're a business owner and you want to become a great coach inside of your organization, type up the word coach in this chat box and I'll reach out personally and I'll talk to you more offline about what it takes to become a successful coach. So ladies and gentlemen, great to see you there. Master Coach Nikki Masson, you're going to be a big part of this program and you're going to be bringing and sharing with our clients keys to what makes you successful. So we're excited to have you in the program as a master coach and helping us facilitate change with our clients. Morna, very excited for this also. I know you'll make a phenomenal coach. So ladies and gentlemen, It's dinner time here in Taiwan, so it's time for me to get some food, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Wherever you are, have a wonderful day.